The Fort Tabor-Fort Rodman Historical Association, in conjunction with New Bedford Cable TV, is bringing you a series of interviews with local citizens that we are labeling Heroes Among Us. These are individuals who have experienced the trauma, the confusion, and the drama of war. My name is Joseph Langlois. I'm president of the Fort Tabor-Fort Rodman Historical Association. Those seen in this series are ordinary individuals who were confronted by extraordinary events that demanded at times more than they may have thought they were capable of enduring. They experienced situations that were impossible to imagine in civilian life. Some of those interviewed participated in historic military engagements, while others were often involved in conflicts that were kept from the public for years. We will not be discussing strategies or outcomes, but rather take a more focused, a more personal, and a more intimate account of events. We've decided to commit ourselves to this work, as history is often easily forgotten, distorted, or placed in well-written books once read that may never be taken off the shelf again. Most often, the roles of thousands of seamen, soldiers, airmen, and officers are often lost in time. Our hope is to preserve their memory, record their experiences, and allow others to learn from the bravery, the courage, and the indefinable spirit that mankind is capable of during periods of intense stress of the type that is often encountered during war.
My name is Paul Marr. I served for 12 years as a Royal Marine Commando. I am now a member of the Board of Directors of the Fort Rodman Fort Tabor Historical Association, and I volunteer at the Fort's Military Museum. Following my military service, I worked and lived in Asia for a total of 12 years, and I know Korea well. We plan to interview 4 local men, veterans of the war in Korea. The Korean War is often referred to as America's forgotten war, but to those who read their history or had a friend or relative who served there, and most of all to those who fought there, Korea is known as the theater in which almost 150,000 American servicemen were either killed or wounded during this so-called United Nations police action. The war in Korea lasted from the 25th of June 1950 to the 27th of July 1953. It closed not with a decisive victory or even a conditional surrender, but with a truce which prevails down to the present day. An uneasy outcome with which nobody was even remotely happy, and is reflected in outbursts of deadly violence down to the present day. This sour war, as the American statesman Averell Harriman called it, the century's nastiest little war, in the words of the military historian S.L.A. Marshall, was fought over rugged and forbidding mountainous terrain. It was conducted in what was often almost disabling weather conditions, including the brutal winter of 1950, the coldest on record in more than 100 years on the Korean peninsula. The divided peninsula of Korea extends more or less north to south from the Yalu River in northeast Korea, its border with the Chinese Manchuria, to the area around the port city of Busan on the southeast coast, facing the Japanese island of Kyushu across the Korean Strait. It is bordered to the west by the Yellow Sea and to the east by the Sea of Japan. At the time of the outbreak of the war, Korea was most notable only for its extreme poverty. The country had been under harsh Japanese colonial rule from 1905 until the Japanese surrender on the 15th of August 1945, which marked the end of the Second World War. Pending full independence for Korea, the peninsula was divided into 2 occupation zones, defined by the 38th parallel, with Soviet troops holding the north and the United States Army controlling the south. An uneasy stalemate ensued. Following separate elections in 1948, Kim Il-sung emerged as the communist leader in Pyongyang to the north, and Syngman Rhee became the first president of the Democratic South, administered from Seoul. Both claimed legitimacy as the only lawful government in Korea. In late 1948, the Soviets withdrew their troops and the Americans followed suit in June 1949. The stage had now been set for civil war. This then was the Korea confronted by our guests after full-scale war had broken out. They will each recall some of their own very different experiences at different stages of the conflict. Mr. Jim Leal, was a medic in the 12th Regiment, 7th Division in 1953, who took part in the bitter and savage fighting for Pork Chop Hill. And Mr. Howie Prescott, fought as a machine gun section commander in battles at Pork Chop, T-Bone and the Ice Cream Cone in 1952. These then are the homegrown heroes whose stories you'll be privileged to hear in the following series.
Well, I was drafted at 19 years old, and I went to Kentucky for basic training. And then from there I went to Japan. I was in Japan for 2 weeks and then moved to Korea. And when I got to Korea, my first sight was taken by truck up to Old Baldy with dead bodies all over the place. So it wasn't a very good sight for a 19-year-old to see his first day.
You were a trained infantryman at this time?
Yeah, I trained in the machine guns.
Machine guns?
Yeah.
Very good. Jim?
Well, I was drafted also. Matter of fact, we got drafted together. There was a big group that went up at that time. Prior to that, I tried to enlist when the Korean War started. And because I wasn't a citizen of this country, I was born in Portugal, they refused me. At that time, they wasn't taking non-citizens. But probably it was about 1.5 years later, I got drafted. And when I went to the draft board, they said I didn't have to go into the service because I wasn't born in this country. But if I didn't go, there was a good possibility they would ship me back to Portugal. So so because of that, I told them I would try to get in all these years, and so it doesn't bother me going in. So I did 4 months of infantry training at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and after I did my infantry training, I was sent over to Japan. While I was in Japan, they needed medics pretty badly in Korea, so they picked so many fellas to go, and I was one of them. And I really didn't want to go to medical school. I didn't want to be a medic. I was an infantryman. I was happy with that. And I said to the major that was talking to me and telling me that I was going to medical training, I said, I don't want to go. I want to go to Korea and get this thing over with and get home as soon as I can. And as he said to me, in the Army, my friend, you don't make choices. We make your choices. You're going to become a medic.
Just north of Seoul, Allied planes smashed Chinese columns massed for an attack a scant 1,000 yards beyond our main line of defense. Pouring down the historic invasion routes from Munsan and Uijeonbu, the Reds try to break through to Seoul. Officers observe the effectiveness of UN air power back in the skies after days of rain as it plasters enemy concentrations building up for their much-heralded May Day attack on Seoul. The planes smother the target with machine gun fire, rockets, and napalm.
So and I went to medical school, which was a great time in my military life. I went to Edajima, which was the Annapolis of Japan during the Second World War. It was a beautiful school, and on the way down, we stopped at Hiroshima And what a sight that was. It was just like what you see in all the pictures I had seen. It was devastated. Nothing was growing, and it was, apparently there was still radiation there.
And
So
this was just 7 years after the end
yeah,
of the war.
this is
when the
probably
bomb
7 years
dropped.
later, right. And nothing was growing, absolutely nothing at that time. And we were there for about a half hour. I got a good look at that, kind of eerie seeing that. And after that, we went to the school, and I did my training there. Not enough, not enough. I needed a lot more training that they gave us. They only gave us a month. They rushed us through there. And then they shipped us we went down then to Sasebo, and they put us on a small ship, and they shipped us across Korea. And then I was sent up to the 7th Division, same division that Howie was in, but I went to a 17th Regiment, and I was a medic there. And it was great because I was an infantryman first, so I knew how to fight. So that was great. That was good. And when I first arrived there, I had no weapon. I said to the senior aide man, when I arrived on the front lines in King Company, I said to him, I need a weapon. He said, you're going to be too busy. You don't need weapons. I said, I'm an infantryman. I'm used to fighting. I want my weapon. I want something next to me just in case it's a problem. So he did. He gave me a carbine, and that's how that all started.
Well, when I was at Old Baldy, the sting had ended. They were just cleaning the bodies up off the hill. And they were taking them away, bringing them in helicopters, taking them away in trucks. They'd take the dog tags, jam it up between their teeth, so they would know what it was. And like I say, it was kind of scary, your first day there. And we were the first outfit that was segregated, that they put blacks and whites together. The 24th Division and our division, they formed, half went back and forth because General MacArthur wanted them segregated then, you know.
So this was your first experience of a
Right,
fully integrated
yeah.
infantry outfit?
And then from there, I moved up to T-Bone.
T-Bone.
Yeah,
That's about halfway up the peninsula,
Right.
north of Seoul.
we used to pull a lot of outpost duty there. And it was outpost duty where I found my two buddies, Charlie D'Andrea and Junior Macedo, dead.
They were your friends from here, from
Oh, yeah, close friends
New Bedford?
from New Bedford, yeah. In fact, we put a monument up for Junior Macedo down on Bolton Street. It's still there. I see Junior's wife now and then.
Were you there in the battle when they were killed, or did you?
No, they were out on patrol. And in the morning, we would just send out to pick up the bodies, the ones that didn't make it back. And the first two I seen were my two friends.
That was quite some introduction.
In fact, Charlie D'Andrea was highly decorated because he jumped on a hand grenade to stop his friends from getting killed.
And he won a decoration for that.
Oh, yeah, he had a Silver Star,
Silver Star.
Bronze Star. You know. He has no family here no more.
An infantry company is a company in a regiment, and they supply all the medical and doctors to the whole regiment. And they go to the battalion aid stations. There's always a doctor there, plus probably about 5 or 6 medics. And they supply medics to all the infantry companies. Normally is 8 medics to each company of 200 men. And mostly always, we were probably 5 and 6 men there. We were always short on everything. But we supply everything. We have no nurses. I don't remember seeing a nurse in Korea while I was there. I was there 13 months. But we supply them all. And then every company has got a medic in, even the tank companies. Some of those fellows have got a little better job because they stay in the battalion. They stay a little further back on regiment. But the fellas that go into an infantry company, they're right in that platoon. So there are only 2 medics to a platoon. And I was in the 2nd platoon.
You volunteered again to go to a rifle platoon.
Yes. I volunteered.
You had a choice to stay.
Oh yeah. Well, we're still back. We're in the medical company, and it was quite boring back there. And I, of course, not being into action yet, we don't know what it's like. If they let you see it first, you wouldn't go. But anyway, as it was, I volunteered to go into an infantry company, and I was on the main line of resistance probably 2 days, and then we moved out to our first outpost. That was Erie and Arsenal, and we'd be out there about 10 to 12 days. So we'd go there, and there's no electricity there. You use, when you want any light, you have candles. And you go on patrol, and you have your listening posts, and that's what you're there for. You're there for to give the alarm just in case a big major battle's going to start. And that's what they're there for. That's why you send your patrols out. And being a medic, you did a little more patrols than the average person, because they would normally send 9 men out, and and the medics would go to every one of them. I think it was an ambush patrol. Sometimes we wouldn't go on those, but and that's what you did. And of course, artillery. During the day was always quiet out in the outposts, the ones I was on, and here in the arsenal is a good example of that. But at night, just around 4:30, they would send rounds over on us all the time. And quite a few guys would get wounded at that time, and they shell you pretty heavy. And after, like I say, after about 2 weeks, they'd pull us off there. We hadn't washed, no change of clothes. And when we went into a stream to go on patrol, we just walked into the water like you do. And when you came out of it, there was no way of drying. You didn't have a change of clothes. So they dried on your body. You know, I always took an extra pair of socks and underwear. Other than that, everything else I carried was medical supplies and whatever I needed, my stretcher, whatever I needed to be out there. But you just stay dirty. And the first thing you did when they brought you off that is they took you down to a shower point. They would take the clothes away from you. I think they burnt them. They were that bad. And they'd give you the new clothes. And then they ship us back online, and we'd get on the MLR. We'd be there another 4 days, and then they ship us back out for another 2 weeks. That's the way it normally worked out.
This is the beginning of a tank infantry team assault deep into enemy-held territory. Here in an undisclosed area north of Seoul, an attack order is issued for a tank infantry patrol. After the order is given, extra HE grenades are distributed. During the early dawn of the following morning, armor rendezvous with riflemen. Men of the 3rd Division mount tanks to ride during the initial phase of the patrol's advance. Mission of the tank infantry team: cross Imjin River, probe communist defenses beyond the 38th parallel, and report back on his dispositions and equipment. Test his strength, but do not become decisively committed. Withdraw when information is secure. This is a reconnaissance in force. All roads leading into enemy territory are heavily mined. Tanks take to the Imjin River bed, shallow here where it crosses a 38th parallel, to avoid red mines. Abandoned communist trucks are found in the river. On the far side of the Imjin, the infantrymen dismount onto North Korean soil and prepare to move out. The patrol moves forward over the innumerable hills into which the enemy forces are dug in. Red fields of fire are not yet brought to bear on the assaulting troops. An enemy position is engaged. Extra grenades issued the night before now come in handy as the riflemen close with a defensive outpost. After the outpost defenses are overrun, the tank infantry team reorganizes and continues the advance. Incoming small arms fire and mortar rounds are beginning to slow down the speed of the patrol's forward movement. The troops are cautious not to become decisively engaged.
I was a section sergeant. I had 2 machine gun squads under me. So one may be with Jim's outfit, and the other may be with another outfit. So I used to travel back and forth a lot, you know. And if someone got shot or moved off the line, I would have to replace them, you know. Make the gunners and the assistant gunners. The gunner carried the gun, the assistant gunner carried the tripod, and the rest of them all carried ammunition.
Did you have difficulty getting ammunition up to the front at any time, or was it
Not
always in
really.
good
We
supply?
always had,
Plenty of ammo.
yeah, because wherever we went, we carried it with us. We had everybody else but the gunner and the assistant gunner, they all carried ammo. They had it in little
Little ammo
cans.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ammo case.
We used to make targets at night. You'd fire, and every fifth one lit up.
Tracer.
Right. So you would get numbers, and when they wanted you to fire, they'd just tell you that number. Fire at so and so, you know. They crisscross the fire, you know.
Interlocking fields of fire.
Interlock, yeah. You all had your own maps and everything. None of them liked to fool around with the Turks.
Yeah.
The Turks were all knives.
Yeah, they would throw their weapons down and pull out their knives and charge.
Oh yeah, they liked the knives.
They like to cut ears off.
And you could always tell when one screwed up, because they made him shave his mustache off. That was an honor to a Turk to have a mustache.
And so their internal.
Whenever they
function was
messed
to-
up, they made him take it off. You know, you could always tell one that got in trouble. But
Yeah,
the Ethiopians were very quiet. You know, there was an honor guard for Haile Selassie there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they weren't.
They went to Korea to
They were
die.
good fighters.
They weren't. Yeah.
They were
That's
good
what they
fighters.
went. They went there to die for Haile Selassie.
Yeah, they were good fighters.
If they come home, they were disowned almost.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
The job was to bring honor to the country by
to
dying in
die for
battle.
their country. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, every regiment over there had, of course, it was the United Nations. So outside of the British and the and Australians, basically they had their own units. They had their own vehicles and they had their own uniforms. All other countries, they had all our equipment, all our trucks, all our weapons. They had our uniforms. So many times, I remember the time I was walking down a road not too far from the main line, and I came across, look at this fellow, and I thought he was just a black man. I talked to him, and he couldn't speak English. I said, "What are you?" And he could speak Italian, and he was an Ethiopian. But they were great fighters again. But they used our clothes again. There were other guys that used to like to fight with knives. They liked that. They pull that knife out when they get to the top of that hill. They'd clean the hill off, though, more times than not.
No prisoners.
Oh, no. No prisoners, and the Chinese would run when they came up, a lot of the times. So every outfit
There would
had
never
them.
be a prisoner. One of their own would kill them first. You went up there to die. That's what they went there for.
Or to take out the enemy.
Right.
Or take out the
yeah.
enemy. Right.
Take out the enemy. If they come home, they
die
weren't heroes, you know.
There's stories that I wouldn't even want to tell you about these people and what others were did over there. I wouldn't want to mention what they did, not on camera.
But see, like me being in a machine gun, I never knew who I was going to go up online with.
True.
We got attached to all the
Right.
different rifle companies, you know. We had like maybe 10 guys in the squad, and you went up online with any rifle company that needed you.
That needed machine gun support.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were heavy weapons.
Yeah,
Yeah. You had 30 caliber, 50 caliber,
30 caliber.
30 caliber.
Yeah, they were all water cool, the ones with the tank around them.
Yeah. Now, a lot of this fighting took place at night. The Chinese favored night
Mostly,
fighting.
you could smell them though.
You
You could
them
smell
coming?
a Chinese 50 yards away.
How come?
The garlic and the food they had, that hashi there, and you could smell them when they were 100 yards away.
I remember hearing that, and just a slight story on that one. And it was when I first got into the company, and then for some reason they thought that Erie Arsenal was going to get attacked that night, And so they got us all together, and we're going out there to support them. And they're out there about a mile and a half out. We got to go down this long road that was hilly. And we all got out there, and this is my first experience. My God, you know, I'm like he said, 19 years old, and wow. And I remember them saying, "Don't worry, you'll see the Chinese. You smell them before you see them." And I'm walking halfway down there, and I can smell garlic. I think it's all in my mind. I said, "Oh my God, I'm waiting for them to start shooting now, because they're here." Because of the smell of the garlic. But as it was, nothing happened. So I think it was all in my mind. I was smelling garlic.
On July 10th, President Truman appointed General Douglas MacArthur Commander-in-Chief of the United Nations forces, which were beginning to assemble. For the outnumbered troops in the field, it was fight, pull back, and fight again. More United States forces arrived in Pusan. Not nearly enough, but it was a beginning.
I had came off Erie and Arsenal after about 12 to 14 days, and I wanted to get back to the medical company, and we could do that because we normally stayed online 4 days. So I went to see the senior aid man, and I asked him permission to go back to the regiment. So back there, at least we got a PX. They can say show movies, and of course I take my shower, and the food was great. We had sea rations all those 14 days basically, and so I got permission to go. While I was down there, I was probably there the first day, and all of a sudden I heard helicopters flying in early morning, a lot of activity at the medical station. So I walked down to where the doctors were. This was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I noticed that the helicopters were dropping off casualties, and there were ambulance coming in. So I said to the doctor that what's happening. He said the 3rd Battalion, which was my battalion, is up on Pork Chop Hill. I said, when do they go? They went this morning. So I went up to the CP, and I told the clerk there, I said, I understand that my outfit's up on Pork Chop Hill, and so I picked up my medical bag and my stretcher and my weapon, and I ran down to get a ride. So when I got where the ambulance were, I said, which one's going back to 3rd Battalion? And they said, this one is, and I jumped in an ambulance and got a ride. At that time, one of the friends of mine said, Jimmy, you don't want to go there. He said, everybody's getting killed up there. I said, my outfit's there. And I jumped on the ambulance and went to the aid station. It was probably maybe 5 miles north. Once I got there, I said, I need a ride to go up the line. And of course, they're using litter jeeps to bring the wounded back. And so I said, I need a ride up there, get on one of the litter jeeps. And again, I had some people say, Jim, you don't want to go there. Why don't you stay here? We need you here. We could use you here. And I said, no, my outfit's there. I can't do this. And I got on a Jeep. I got up online. When I got, oh my God, there was bodies everywhere. There was bodies just everywhere. And at that aid station, some of the guys I knew in there, he said, we could, I said, I want to ride up. Well, by that time, it's only personnel carriers that take you up there. And so I said, I got to get up there. He said, that personnel carrier is going up there now. But again, they said, wow, you don't want to do this. But I jumped on the personnel carrier and went up. And the first thing I noticed when I closed the door, it was full of ammunition and was full of rounds. And I'm saying, oh my God, what am I doing in here? In here, if we get hit and it explodes, I'll be back in Massachusetts, you know, in the next 3 seconds. And I said, oh my God, and nobody knows where I'm at. No one knew I was really there. But as it was, we made it to the point. I got out, rounds were coming in, I jumped out, and the fighting, of course, artillery rounds are coming up, and I saw a lieutenant, and I finally said to him, where's King Company? He said, it's right up there on that ridge. So I ran from there. I saw my medic, the senior aid man. He had a piece of steel in his leg, and he was in a bunker with wounded. And so he gave me a hand. So I gave him a hand there, and I patched him up. And I said, I'm taking you out of here. So the next person, he said, no, I don't want to go. They said, no, I want to stay here. I said, no, everything's all set. Here comes a personal carrier, and we put all the wounded in there, and I said, you get in there and get out of here. So he went, and I went up to join my company. Once I got up there, my sergeant said to me, where the hell have you been? Because I didn't go up the hill with him. And he didn't know. And I said, well, I was on R&R. And he looked at me, what are you talking about? And I had to explain to him. I said, hey, I had no idea. You guys, that you guys were here, but I'm here now. Okay, he said, then he calmed down, because nobody hitchhikes the battle. I knew some that hitchhiked out of there. But anyway, but that's how that went.
And you were under fire this
Oh,
whole
well,
time.
yeah, all this time. There's
Heavy
artillery
fire.
coming down.
One thing we
coming
never
down.
did was wear stripes. You never wore no stripes.
Because you'd be a target.
Officers wouldn't wear any bars because they shine at night.
Yeah.
Everybody had a nickname. You know, the less information you give them, the better off you were. You know,
So go by your nickname rather than
right?
your given
Everybody
name.
had a
Yeah.
nickname. You know.
You took very heavy casualties at Pork
Oh,
Chop.
well,
Your-
yeah, my
your
whole
unit.
outfit, out of the, there was 188 fighting men. You got 200 men in the company, but some of them are truck drivers, some are cooks. So it's about 188 fighting men. And out of 188 fighting men, 24 hours later, all our officers were dead. And there was 12 of us left.
12 out of
Yes.
188.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 companies went up. And the other company...
There was
Love Company-
200 and something altogether that got killed on pork.
Oh, yeah, almost 300. There
No,
was,
but I'm
there was,
saying from our outfits.
Yes, there was 1,200 casualties in 5 days, and the other company that went up with my company, they had 15 men left out of their company, but they just got caught out in the open. They got caught out in the open. The artillery came down and ate them up, and the officers don't last long. We lost the 5 officers. The Love Company lost 4. And then we got hit twice again, one that night by a big push, and I was involved even fighting on that one, because everybody fought. And no sense in taking care of anybody at that time. We had all the wounded.
Survival.
Yeah, survival. And then they hit us again about 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were really coming at us. I mean, it looked like, well, I looked at them, and there's flares all over the place, very eerie looking. And you look down there, you can see, you think it's all of China's coming at you. That's how many. They're screaming so loud that all the noise that's going around, you can hear that. It's loud. They're screaming. They're blowing their bugles and they're hollering. And we emptied our weapons. I had my weapons. I emptied all my weapons out. and once this other medic and I finally says, we got to push back quick. Our weapons are all cleaned out. They called in artillery, what we call VT. Variable timing shells that explode off the ground a certain distance. Could be 50 yards, 50 feet, whatever.
Airburst.
And yeah, and they come down. Oh my God! Somebody called it in on us. But they'd have killed us all. But again, it stopped the attack. It ate them right up. It came in, and it sounds like at the end of when you go see the fireworks, at the very end, when they shoot all those fireworks out. It's like 10 times worse than that. That's how many shells are going off at one time. We got off the hill, and I didn't realize how many we had lost in my company, because all of a sudden someone said, oh, by the way, King Company, we're being pulled off the hill. All the officers are gone, so the sergeant had the phone. And I said to him, I said, there's more King Company down. He said, no, they're not. They're all here. I said, no, there's more down this line, because I used to travel the lines back and forth looking for wounded. So I said, I'm going down there and get them. And he said, we're going to be leaving soon. And I went down, and I'm hollering as I'm going, anybody in King Company this time, the battle we had that morning, that's already done. So it's kind of quiet outside of artillery rounds and mortar. You can see the mortar rounds coming down. And there was probably 3 or 4 more men in there. So when we got all together, there was an officer there, and I looked and I saw probably 45, 50 men that I thought, and the personal carriers came up and took us all, and I remember saying to one of the guys, oh, I hope we don't get one of those open ones. They got the open ones, because the mortars, I could see mortars coming down. They hit one of those, get everybody. They had the closed ones or the new ones. As it was, I got an open one. And so I was asked later, how many people in your company that's left? I said, we had about 45 or 50. That's what was there. That was 5 companies, which I found out later. And as we're leaving, the driver says, oh, there's a personal carry turned over, and there's a guy or 2 guys that are laying there. And I said to him, stop. They were hollering, of course. And the men in the personal carry with me, was probably 9 of us in there, said, no, keep going. They want to get off, and you can't blame them. They've been there a couple of days. They don't want any more. They're coming out of there. They're going to the rear, and they just hollered, no, keep going, hollering. I had to really holler. Said, stop this thing, and I jumped off with another medic. We got the stretcher, and we grabbed the guy that was there. I think there was 2 of them, and I got a problem with that. Sometimes I see 1 man, and sometimes I see 2. But anyway, we got him on, brought him to the, and we were out in the open, so shells are coming down. And we put him on the very edge, and we jumped back in, held him on until we got to to where there's an aid station, right where the MLR starts. And everybody, of course, jumps off, and there was a pile of bodies there also. There's a pile of bodies on the hill. It just sucked.
It's an awful experience for a young person to go through, you know.
And it's not just at the time. It stays with you.
Right.
All your life.
Everybody, you always have certain things that'll bring back nightmares, certain dates, you know. It's something you never forget.
The funny thing that happened is after we stopped and the aid station's there, and we took that stretcher off, and we brought it to the aid station, and there was a 2.5-ton truck there. And there was a lot of cameramen right in that area taking pictures at Pork Chop Hill. There, I remember that. And we had bodies all over the place out there. And anyway, the fellas in the truck come say, hey, Doc, come on, let's go, we're pulling out of here. And the truck was probably from here to across the street, and I ran over. And I remember reaching up and grabbing a guy's hand to get on the truck. I don't remember anything for about 24 hours later. I got a dead spot in my life. I don't know what it is. And I don't really want to know.
What you have just seen and heard is an account of a local citizen as he experienced the trauma of war. The goal of the Fort Taber Fort Rodman Historical Association, in conjunction with New Bedford Cable Access TV, in bringing you this interview, was not to glorify war, but rather keep the memory of these brave individuals alive as they experience these hellish events. We must remember the price of freedom and the sacrifice that these individuals have given for the people and the country that they love. Their courage serves as a role model for individuals of all ages that when confronted with stress and seemingly insurmountable problems, that we must face them boldly and with courage. Finally, we hope to demonstrate that in this small corner of the nation, we are filled with individuals who have behaved heroically and have contributed significantly to the history and the well-being of our nation. We want to thank you for watching Heroes Among Us.
Something good is happening in this city, and it involves the color blue. Ma'am, I notice you have a blue bin in front of your house here. Why is that?
Because it makes me feel good.
Oh.
By recycling, I'm doing my part in preventing pollution and global warming.
Well, I notice you have flattened cardboard here in your bin.
Oh, but more as well. You can recycle old newspapers, magazines, catalogs, and old phone books, as well as cans, soda cans, and 2 types of plastic, number 1 and number 2.
1 and 2. Well, is there anything left for the trash man?
No, not really.
When you recycle, the trash man takes less trash to our landfill. If everyone in the city recycled, our landfill would last a long time. Just set your blue bin out on your regular trash collection day. Fill it with flattened cardboard, newspapers, magazines, phone books, metal cans, glass bottles, and now all plastic containers number 1 through number 7, as well as office paper, junk mail, and plastic bags. To request a free recycling bin, call 508-979-1493 today.
Join us in making New Bedford a cleaner place. Recycle more, New Bedford!
What we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. You can help keep America beautiful. Visit KAB.org.
This color really looks great on you.
Oh my gosh, guys, I totally forgot to tell you. I broke up with Jeff.
No way. Why?
Because I was at his house the other day and he totally threw his water bottle in his paper recycling bin.
Ugh, ew. That's so gross.
I know, right? And I've told him a million times. It's so easy. It's just cardboard and paper in one, and plastic, cans, metal, glass, and bottles in the other. But he just wouldn't listen, so I had to kick him to the curb.
You go, girl.
Call Marissa at 508-979-1493 to request your free recycling bins. This message was brought to you by the City of New Bedford and UMass Dartmouth Charlton School of Business.